morning. Happy Friday, everyone. Thank you for joining another session of Azure Power Lunch. And today we're going to talk about Azure Maps. So let me share my screen. Everyone can see it.
Yes.
Here's a blurb about myself. And, by the way, as usual, I'm going to publish the slide deck with the in the description. The link to the slide deck will be in the description on our YouTube site. And folks, if you are not asking question, if you can mute yourself, that would be wonderful. So what is Azure Maps? So first of all, Azure Maps is not a single service. This service is a combination of a number of geolocation and geospatial services. Okay, it provides things like, so let's go to the next slide. It provides things like maps, mobility services, weather information. And what it is doing is it's doing a lot of things on behalf of what we may do if we have to access other services. For example, weather data is coming from AccuWeather. We have this mobility services coming from our partner MoveIt, and main mapping data is coming from TomTom. So this is all kind of provide us in an aggregated fashion, and there are two modes to access that information. One way to do it is through the SDK, and the second way is by using the REST API. And we will take a look at both ways, like how to work with that. So moving forward, so I just jump the slide. So this is kind of a high level picture if you want to understand what are different things that are available as a part of it. So you have maps, you have SDK, of course, you have routing, which kind of direction from how to go from one place to another, and what are some of the things, just like if you look at any mapping utility, you're going and it allows you to map it, find point of interest in that on those spots. Then you have you can even host your private map data into Azure Maps. So that allows you to do like kind of interesting things with your mapping data that you may have. Provides interaction with Power BI. This, I think, just released in February, that is available. So that's kind of help you. And so what we're going to do is not to not spend too much time on kind of on slide decks, just a few slides that I have. For example, this is weather data that's available last year through AccuWeather.com, and it gives you, show you like a different aspect. And first of all, the first question comes to mind: how I can test these things out. So what you will have to do is, first of all, you will have to create a weather service incident or a mapping, sorry, Azure Map Service instance. So let's do that. If we go in and we say map, that's your mapping instance. And let's click on create. And you will see here, just keep in mind that there is some data sharing going on. That data sharing is not at the kind of level that we are sharing individual customer data, but we are sharing journal queries, and you have to accept it. And then there are two tiers. There's a standard S1 and S0, so you can pick any one of those tiers and you can take a look at it. There are certain capabilities. So if you are just testing, just playing with it, I will say go with S0. If you want some kind of production stuff, probably S1 would be a better tier for you. So here are the two tiers. As you can see, I mean, S1 provides a lot of functionality, including geofencing, which becomes very interesting when we are talking about scenario where, let's say, you are sending shipments from one area to the other, and you want to know when those shipments are arriving, or things like when you have, for example, construction equipment in an area, and you want to be notified when that construction equipment moves out or moves into that area, things like that. you know so all of those all of that stuff becomes kind of very interesting. So those are capabilities that are available in S1, uh, uh, the SKU which is named as S1. So in any case, what you will do is you will go in, and as you can see, there's not much to it. You give it a resource group, you give it a name, and then you create your map instance. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to create a map instance. I already have one, just to save time, and that's my map instance. So as you can see here, um, this is uh, how it looks. And there are two ways to authenticate. One is shared key authentication, which is pretty standard. If you have used a number of Azure services like storage, search, I mean, they come with like a shared key authentication, and you use that shared key to authenticate to those services. But it also now in public preview supports Azure AD authentication as well. So you can, there is a process for it at this point while it is in preview. What you will have to do is you have to create a app registration in Azure AD, and then from that app registration, you use this client ID to give access to that app registration, and from that point on, you will start using. What you will do is you will assign user access to that client ID, and that's from that point on you will be able to use, instead of shared key authentication, using Azure AD user, which definitely a more secure way to access that service. Okay, so long story short, the service is there, and we will come to the main thing is how quickly you can start playing with this service. That's where um, I think this service has done a great job of creating a test environment where you can basically play with all different feature, everything. And here it is. This is the website. So let's Azure Maps code sample.azurewebsites.net. All the samples are there. They're constantly adding more samples. There's a link to the GitHub project. So if you click on it, it will open the entire GitHub project so you can take a look at the code, see what is going on over there. And if you want to modify the code and use it for your own use, you can use it. So these are all different samples. You can pick up which are the latest samples, things like that, and go from there. And then if you go towards the end, you will see what are some of the external samples and how you can use it in things like Xamarin, things like you have like a React application, how you can use those things in a React application or in Power Apps or Python. All of these samples are there. So let's take a look at um, some of the latest samples. So if I click on latest, it will show me this. So first of all, um, let's look at the weather. So if we open it in a new tab, this is basically just weather information. I can expand it. I can go to Dallas. Let's continue expanding it. digging it down, Frisco, McKinney, Plano. So if we click on, neighboring city, Plano. Okay, so this is showing in the metric, not imperial, like centigrade. So what we can do is the code is available, so we can change it and we can change the unit size. So because if we're in US, we're used to imperial units. So let's go into the code. So what I have done is, let's go back there. Just want to show you 1 second. You see that source code, you can go in there. It will take you to that particular GitHub page and you can download the code. What I have done is I have downloaded this code and I have downloaded it here in weather data. And this is the API call that it's making. This is the URL of the API call, current condition, JSON API, and this is the query. And what I'm going to do is, if you look at this API, um, there is a unit variable that you can pass, and if you set it to imperial, then this weather data will be returned as in Fahrenheit. So let's what we can do. We can go in here and we can just click on this weather data. And once it come up, once again, it take a second, so we can quickly zoom in. And once we are there, we click on it, and now it's showing data in in Fahrenheit. And by the way, do you see that broken image? The reason is I haven't downloaded everything. That's why it's showing that broken image. Otherwise, if I have all the resources available, it will show the appropriate image that is relevant to that conditions, like clouds or sun or things like that. So that's one of the reason why it's showing the broken image. Okay. So with that, let's quickly move on to um, so any questions so far? Okay, so let's talk about some of the other use cases. So there is a interactive search use case as well. So for example, if we go in here in the UI in the sample and we talk about so this is your interactive search sample. If I run this sample, open it in a new tab and run it. And so this shows basically by default, it brings up LA because that's the window that you set. So basically think of it, this scenario where somebody is asking for some information and based on their location, you pick up that area and uh, then you ask them to search for places like coffee or, or something like Starbucks or, things like that. So that's how this thing works. So but once again, I have this code available, and what I have done is I have changed in that. So this is very simple code with a few lines of code. What I have done is instead of LA, I have put the coordinates for Dallas, for the Dallas Fort Worth area. So with that, what you can do is once you have this information, you can, once you have put this information here, you can, it will start with a map of the Dallas area. So once again, let's go in here. Let's open this window. Um, and as you can see, this come up with, and very easily, let's say if you're using this on a mobile device or in a, you know, in any other device, you can get the coordinates in your application. You can use the coordinates of the user if the location is turned on, and use those. I'm just hard coding it, but it's easy to get it when if you are on a mobile device. So for example, once again, we can search for hotels or things like that, and it will show us that information. Okay, so this is the Dallas area, and we can click on it, all the relevant information, or we can click here. So very usual stuffs that is available. All that is built into this service for you to quickly use it. So let's talk about one interesting use case, which is about geofencing. Okay, so what? Um, let's go back to our map demo. What I have done is I am subscribing to certain events. You will see events. So this is the event grid integration with Azure Maps, and it can raise certain event. So let's uh, see if we can create a new subscription. So what it's going to do is these are the events that it can raise. Geofence entered, geofence exited, geofence result. Okay. So what it does is these are first you once you have created a geofence, it can be a circle, it can be a polygon, or whatever shape that you can give in. Anytime something entered the geofence, so think of it, you have this equipment which is has GPS enabled. Once it entered a geofence, it's constantly providing you information, and you are sending information to your kind of a map service, and it will let you know, oh yeah, based on its coordinates, now it has entered the construction zone that you have geofence, or it has left the construction zone. So that's how you can track how much of your equipment has left, has entered, things like that. So I mean, it can give rise to very interesting scenario, especially in this age where you need to know if you have equipment like, for example, I mean, medical equipment or things like that, or ambulances, or th- that kind of healthcare vehicles. I mean, you can see which have entered in a certain area or which have left, all of that. So first of all, what you will do is you will set up this event. What you will need here is an endpoint. It can be an Azure function or a webhook. What I have done in this case, I have created a logic app, and this is a very simple logic app. Of course, you can do a lot of things in a logic app. What I'm doing in this logic app, I'm getting an HTTP event, and I'm sending a request, and I'm sending an email. That's all, with all the body of the HTML in that particular, in that particular email. That's all I'm doing. So just imagine two parts. First of all, um, you know, um, create this logic app to create that webhook, and you can create an Azure function as well. I just went with this. And a second, create that event, attach it there. Third, you will have to do is you will have to create a geofence. And for that, I am using Postman. So I am using REST API, and I am using Postman to create this geofence. As you can see, I have created this geofence, which has two polygons, and this is kind of very simple API. This is the JSON for it. You just provide the coordinates, and it will create the geofence. Then what you do is you get the uh, you have to get the uh, what we call the UDID, which is the ID of that geofence. Once you have that ID, now you can basically, based on that ID, you can tell your location, and it will let you know through the events if you have entered the geofence or not. So for example, what I'm doing is in this one, if you look at the coordinates, I am saying that I am moving in to the geofence area. That's why I call it a move in, because look at the coordinate, they are inside that geofence. And in this one, I am moving out. I already created a subscription. I'm going to cancel it, and I've already created a subscription here for the move out. Let's see how I will filters, event type, geofence enter. So only it will give me, I am in a geofence. So what I'm going to do is, as I was testing, I was inside the geofence. So first I'm going to move out. So as you can see, it did not raise any events or anything. So I've just kind of moved out. And now I'm going to trigger this event by moving in. So um, I go in and please ignore it. The result is from the previous query, and I'm going to do move in. So when this happened, as you can see, it said, is event published? Yes, it's true. It has published an event. So now event has been published. And if I go into my email, I see this event. This is the event that shows, the data being published and the data available there, which I can analyze and find out. Okay, something entered that uh, geofenced event zone. And with a few APIs and logic app, and I can use, of course, I can use function, and you can do a lot with it. Basically, it's a very simple example. We're just sending an email, but it can be more very interesting where we are kind of sending um, notification or maybe taking certain actions or raising some other event, secondary event based on this to, for example, like maybe telling a construction supervisor, hey, this equipment has left, and looks at his machine and sees, oh, why this equipment left? Because it wasn't supposed to leave at that time or something like that, So that's kind of do this, kind of IoT integration to make things smarter, make things safer. Okay. So, any questions so far? Okay. So we looked at the weather, and this is the scenario that we talked about. This is basically a vehicle entering a detection zone, and that's that's when we found out that if something is happening, and we can kind of take some intelligent decisions. And this is how Azure Maps play into an overall real-time tracking architecture. So you have different components, you have um, you know data gathering, you have tools like Power BI through which you are monitoring those real-time events, and at the same time you have machine learning, and which is analyzing this data for further analysis, all of these things. And you can do all of that using something like kind of IoT Central, which allows you to do that. And you can use IoT Central along with Azure Maps to kind of build this with kind of zero code, these real time tracking capabilities. Okay. Oh, oh, just FYI, I mean, this is Azure Cloud. Azure Maps is now available in GovCloud, and this is you can use it there as well. So if you have customers that are using GovCloud, that's something that you can take advantage of. And as I said, with Power BI, you can build very nice visualization, real-time visualization using with Azure Maps, and that went in public preview, I think, sometime in February. So that's when it went in public preview. Um, and these are some other stuff, and these are some resources that are available for you to take a look. um, Azure Maps. So once again, keep in mind, it is not a single service. It is a multitude of service which allows you to do a lot of things like geofencing, routing, maps, weather, all of that. Basically what we are doing is we are gathering these services that provided with different vendors and providing to you under a single Azure service umbrella. Okay. So we have 4 minutes. Just last time, any questions?
Naveed, just one question. So we also have this Bing Maps offering. Like, how does this, like, what's your take on how does this
I was hoping
complement?
that question will come up. Yeah, so basically Bing Maps. So if you are using Bing Maps, or if your customers are using Bing Maps and they are okay with it, they should continue using it. Okay. There is no need to change. I mean, it's going to be supported for the foreseeable future. But if it's a new project, or if you were using Bing Maps and you see some of the capabilities which are available in Azure Maps that seems kind of very appealing to you, then you should start using it. So that's the official guideline.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Oh, just one last thing. We are going to have, Microsoft is going to have the Build conference. It's all virtual, 48 hours of non-stop content. You can register it. Just search for Build 2020. It's all online. It's basically, you don't have to come to us. We will come to you, as Scott Henselman has said. So please join it. I think you will find a lot of announcement, useful content, in those sessions. So, and as I said, it's free, it's virtual. So please join. And with that, if there are no further questions, I will give everybody 2 minutes back, and hope to see everyone another Power Lunch session next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.